track and stabilize, where I will throw in a video footage for this one. If you're using this tool with any type of moving objects, people, or anything else moving within the actual scene, then normally it's quite good rule of thumb to be masking out or rotor brush these people or objects first. And then we just want to go right click the layer and choose track camera. While this is analyzing, especially when you're working with a bit more complex scenes, it might be worth checking out the plugin called Mocha AE instead. Then if we actually get it to work and with the layer tracked, we're viewing up here the amount of frames tracked in the footage and composition, a bunch of different tracking points for attaching different things to. Either move around to find one point or a spot of 3 tracking points, or you can also press, hold and drag around an area to select several different points at the same time. There's an option to change the shot type, and if the camera is actually completely still and you don't know or need to put the exact angle of view, referring to this one here under your camera options, then just keep it at fixed. You may use the second one if you have a variable or changing zoom, for example. And if accuracy is not enough under those, use the specify angle of view to increase it, but a bit dependent on the actual camera. Show track points either as 3D solve or as 2D source. Render track points lets us choose if wanting to see the points only when the effect is selected. If you can't see the actual track points being too small, or you just think they are way too big and clumsy, then you can either drag the size down to under 100%, or you can enlarge them all the way up to 10,000% if needed. Similar sizing for the target as the mixed red coloring circle or bullseye between 3 or more points. We may create a separate camera directly and adding a bunch of keyframes for the position and orientation properties following the tracking movement. I will delete that camera for now and head over to advanced options in the effect controls. The solve method used for analyzing this tracking was the one called auto detect, as in letting After Effects decide by itself what's the preferable or the best option for extracting the camera movement from the motion picture or the footage, as in motion tracking. What After Effects then decided was the best is seen under method used and thus typical. Something to look out for is the average error value. Basically, this is the error difference between the track points of the 2D source and the 3D solve. And we always want this as very low as possible. If it goes above a pixel or 2, considering checking other solve methods. For example, trying the mostly flat scene if the footage is fairly flat and basic. Or you can check out the tripod pan if there's only rotation within the scene and there's no position movement. Or you can go in and delete or erase some of the tracking points inside the footage. Another option, if you're not happy with the results, maybe with a bit more complex scene, is to mark detail analysis. However, though, that requires a completely new analysis from the beginning. Moreover, you can hold the auto-delete points across time marked and delete some points in the composition. And same points will also be deleted for the whole clip, as for all features and objects. While if it's instead unticked or unmarked, it will only be for that specific time frame. Lastly, choosing if we don't want to see and hide warning banner if it says to reanalyze the footage. The same options are found if clicking down on the layer inside the timeline, go to Effects and 3D Camera Tracker. But there's one more option here, which letting us turn down the effect opacity. And selecting an area to track, just dragging over a few points when the effect is marked. Right-clicking the area, there will be a few more necessary options. As a first thing to do here before you actually adding anything to the tracking points, make sure to first set ground plane and origin. The ground plane is the area here that we select and tell After Effects that we want this as a flat reference point, as a ground, although you will be using this similar to wherever you want to put the reference point within the scene or footage. Then the origin lets us know that this point is the center of the composition. So if you right click again and choose the create text and camera, as we just set the ground plane and origin before, the origin or position property is now set to 0 in X, Y, and Z space. Whereas if we wouldn't do this first, the reference point would be quite lost in space, so to speak. So it always needs a little bit of guiding beforehand. But now this can be adjusted slightly. And suddenly there's a 3D text as part of a footage, glued to the tracking points. That's all for navigating the camera tracker, and it's just a really nice way to spice up your scenes a little bit extra